Episode 9 is set to introduce many different pieces of Jedi and Sith lore in this story by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, what's great about the Jedi and Sith lore that is going to be used in this movie is that it's going to be used in a way to evolve the characters of Kylo Ren and Rey during their travels to both the Dark Spire and, of course, the Lost City. Now, the Lost City is going to be Rey's adventure, and of course, the Dark Spire is going to be Kylo's adventure in this movie. And that, to me, it sounds like it's really going to be very interesting because both Rey and Kylo will have a parallel adventure, if you will, in, of course, this Star Wars film. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film. When it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very intriguing for sure, when it comes to the true identity of the first Sith in Episode 9. Specifically, a description of Rey inside of the Lost City within the Sith runes, where it's described that she is rock climbing up a wall that leads to the top of the runes, and contains several ancient statues. The next goes over Rey standing in front of a large statue that is said to be of the first Sith, where the scene is described to be labeled as, Rey discovers the statue of Sa'atru Whis, who is said to be the first Sith in existence during the ancient times. It's described that he was also known as Shumai, however it's said that his true identity is Sa'atru Whis, as the ancient code of course, the back of the statue describes it as. The next goes over Rey reading a scroll of some kind that lists the ancient Sith code that is said to be different than the one known in canon, to where the sequence is labeled as Rey discovers the code of Sa'atru. So I want to go over a couple of parts about all of this. Now, first things first, there is one piece of this that may very well be a bit controversial to a lot of fans around the world, is that the first Sith actually does have a scroll next to the statue that Rey collects that is actually dubbed as the actual ancient code of the first Sith himself. Now, this actual first Sith is actually said to be Sa'atru Whis, so S-I-A-T-R-U, and of course, Whis spelled W-H-I-S-S. So what's really interesting about all of this, alright, when we look at Star Wars as a whole, we do know that this movie really is going to deliver when it comes to the Jedi and Sith related content. And the one controversial part about all of this is that the actual ancient Sith code that's connected to the first Sith here is described to be different code than the one currently in canon. Now, the thing that I have to say about this is that when we look at Star Wars Episode 9 as a whole, we do know that, you know, when we look at Star Wars, the ancient Jedi and the ancient Sith are going to be used in a way in order to really expand, you know, the characters of Kylo Ren and Rey during their travels to the Dark Spire and, of course, the Lost City. So I'm not quite sure what the true meaning of the name of Sa'atru Whis is, by the way. It's spelled S-I-A-T-R-U-W-H-I-S. One S, by the way, not two S's. So what's really intriguing to me is that when we look at Star Wars, you know, specifically, we do know that this movie really is going to deliver when it comes to J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio tapping into Legends and EU material as a way of using that as an inspirational piece in order to tell the story in great detail in Episode 9. Now, all of this takes place within the second act of the movie in which Rey discovers the Sith runes. And that's another thing that I do want to touch on, is that Rey is actually going to be doing something that we have never seen her do before, is that she will be actually rock climbing up to the top of the Sith runes in Episode 9. It seems as though that is exactly how she finds the Sith statues in Episode 9, which of course leads her to the first Sith location. Now, there's a reason as to why she is discovering all of the ancient Jedi and Sith relics and artifacts and lore and stuff like that, is because she's trying to keep historical accuracy. Historical accuracy basically in order to create a new order that could very well be flawless and pretty much, you know, unable to be touched from the dark side of the Force, or anybody that wills, you know, is willing to go up against that order. So when we look at Star Wars Episode 9, that's the only thing that I think a lot of people may be a little, you know, controversial over, is that there is going to be a new Sith code, an ancient Sith code that's going to be attached to, of course, the first Sith, Sa'atru Whis, where it's actually going to be dubbed as, you know, the code of Sa'atru, where it's going to be a different code than the Sith code that we know of today in canon by George Lucas, Disney, Lucasfilm, you name it. Now, the only thing that I do want to touch on here, the last thing that I do want to touch on, is the whole entire Lost City, right? A lot of people are starting to wonder exactly what planet this is going to be based on, and it's very likely that it's going to be based underneath the surface of Jakku. We do know that Emperor Palpatine had a great interest in that planet for a specific reason, that we still don't really, know the whole entire picture and or story to this very day. That may very well be answered in Episode 9. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.